Late at night, when the world is quiet and the wind moves softly through the dark streets, people tell stories about a strange figure known only as the Smiling Man. No one knows where he comes from, but everyone agrees on one thing. His smile never changes, and it never reaches his eyes. Some say he stands in the shadows, just watching. Others say he walks calmly through the empty neighborhoods, as if he already knows where he is going. He feels less like a monster and like something pretending to be human, and that is what makes him so frightening. Since ancient times, people have been afraid of the unknown. Dark closets, creaking floors, shapes in the corner of a room. As kids, we feared the things that were never really there, but as we got older, we learned that the real world can hold things far stranger than our childhood worries, and usually way more alarming. I mean, have you seen taxes? And today, we will talk about one of those strange things. Around the world, there are reports of unusual creatures, hairy forest giants, glowing-eyed beasts known as your mom, and winged shadows. But the Smiling Man is a bit different. Unlike the other cryptids, he does not hide in caves and forests. He enters homes, he stands beside beds, and he watches people sleep. And the most disturbing part is how human he actually looks, until he smiles. People who say they've seen the Smiling Man often struggle to explain the feeling he gives them. They describe a fear that feels old, deep, and automatic, like their bodies know something is wrong before their mind can even understand it. Many witnesses say that they feel as if death itself is watching them, calm and patient. Even though his mouth stretches into a huge smile, his eyes actually never match it. They stay small, cold, and empty, as if he's only pretending to look human. His presence feels heavy and strange, like the air changes when he enters the room, and everyone who meets him agrees on one thing. He does not feel like a person, probably because, well, A, how did he get in your house? But B, obviously the eyes, a little concerning. The way he looks only makes that feeling actually worse, though, as it's been stated. The Smiling Man stands around 7 feet tall, which is horrifying, towering above almost anyone except for maybe Master Chief in full Mjolnir armor. His shoulders are broad. His body looks like it's possibly pretty strong, almost too strong, like it was shaped for something other than normal life. His head is completely bald, and his face has no hair at all. Not even eyebrows, which, okay, I know I keep breaking into this, but have you ever actually noticed that you never see eyebrows until somebody mentions eyebrows? Anyway, so his eyes are tiny and beady, set too far apart, giving him a blank, unsettling stare. His nose is shallow, barely there. Most of the time, he wears a single piece of clothing, a shiny reflective suit that looks like foil. Some people say it glows green, others say it shines blue, but all of them agree it reflects light in a very strange way. And then there's the smile. It never moves, never changes, never looks human, and never is comforting to see. It stretches too wide, almost too wrong. It seems like it's more like a warning than like a welcome. What's even more alarming is there are apparent sightings of this thing. The first well-known sighting of the Smiling Man happened in 1966 in the quiet town of Elizabeth, New Jersey. It was a cool October night, and two boys, Martin Munov and James Yankitis, were walking home under the New Jersey Turnpike. Earlier that day, people in town had been talking about a strange rumor. A woman said a very tall man in a shiny green suit had chased her. Most people just brushed it off. I mean, it's New Jersey, a hell on earth. Could have been anybody. But for Martin and James, the rumor was about to feel uncomfortably real. As the boys walked past a long wire fence, they noticed a figure standing very still beside it. At first, they thought it was just a man waiting for someone. But when they looked closer, they saw that the figure was tall, much taller than any person that they knew, and he wore a reflective green suit that caught the streetlights in quite an odd way. He wasn't looking at them. Instead, he stared across the road at a small house, almost like he was studying it. Then, the moment shifted. The figure slowly turned towards the boys. That was when they saw the face, a smooth, strange face with wide, frozen grin that didn't look alive. His eyes were off, too small for his face, and they didn't smile with the mouth. They just stared. The boys didn't wait to see more. They ran as fast as they could, not stopping until they reached safety. Later, writer John Keel spoke with both of them. Even when interviewed separately, their stories matched completely. And something else made the night even stranger. Evidently, a UFO was reported in the same area around the same time. For many people, this moment became the start of a long debate. Was the Smiling Man some kind of alien, or something even less understood? I mean, if you were trying to get humans to chill out, you would use some of the same, I guess, mannerisms that humanity uses. It's sort of like why you don't smile at a chimpanzee, because that means danger. Well, learning about humans, smiling means, oh, calm, I'm friendly. So just a few weeks after the first sighting, another strange event would take place, this time on a dark stretch of Interstate 77 in West Virginia. A sewing machine salesman named Woodrow Derenberger was driving home late at night. The road was almost completely empty, and everything seemed rather normal. But then, without warning, something dropped from the sky and settled right in front of his truck. It wasn't a plane, it wasn't anything he had ever seen before. A smooth, silent object hovered above the road, glowing slightly, blocking his way. Woodrow had no choice. He pulled over to the side of the highway because, what the hell is that? But that's when the figure actually appeared, probably making him say, what the hell is that? A tall man stepped out of a strange craft. He wore a shiny blue suit that looked almost like metal. His eyes were set wide apart, and his smile stretched across his face, perfectly still. Even though his mouth never moved, Woodrow then heard him speak, not with sound, but inside of his mind. The man asked simple questions like what the bright lights in the distant town were. Then he calmly introduced himself with a name that would become famous in UFO stories, Indrid Cold. Before leaving, Cold told Woodrow that he would return, and according to Woodrow, he did, many times. Over the weeks that followed, Woodrow said he met Cold again and again, sometimes alone, sometimes with others who looked and behaved the same way. He gave their names, Demo Hassan, Carl Ardo, but some of the reports list the last one as Corrado, actually, but Woodrow's wife later claimed she met them too. But her reaction was very different. She said the beings felt evil, even if they smiled. And this guy didn't think they felt evil at all? I mean, I don't really know if the aliens are evil or not, but good lord. Can you imagine seeing one of these things that's 7 feet tall and smiling at you? No. You're not going to be like, oh, well, we're bros, obviously. No, you're going to, like, okay, the wife was on to something. So during the same years that people in West Virginia were reporting the Mothman sighting and a bunch of other strange happenings nearby, the meeting between Woodrow, Derenberger, and Indrid Cold happened only about 2 weeks before the first big wave of Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant. It was at this time, and considering they were so close to each other and close in distance, that it kind of maybe sparks a few red flags. They're like, not red flags and it didn't happen, but red flags as maybe they're connected. But because of this, many people began to wonder if the two mysteries were somehow maybe the same thing, sort of like I'm saying. So after all, reports of the Smiling Man started appearing during the same period, almost as if both creatures had arrived at once. One of the families caught in the strange time was actually the Lilly family. They lived near Point Pleasant, and they said their house began to act in ways they couldn't explain. Small objects shifted across tables without anyone touching them. Doors opened and slammed on their own. At night, bright lights floated quietly above the house, moving in slow, smooth patterns. The family didn't know if it was ghosts, aliens, or something else entirely, but it was probably not a 7-foot-tall smiling man. But then came the night, or at least they wouldn't think it was, that 13-year-old Linda Lilly would never forget. On December 14th, 1966, Linda woke up suddenly. The room was dark and still, but she heard a soft, steady clicking sound, like someone snapping their tongue against their teeth. When her eyes adjusted, she saw something at the end of her bed. A tall figure, almost reaching the ceiling, stood there, watching her. He had no hair, no expression in his eyes, and a wide, fixed grin that didn't seem human in the slightest. Frozen with fear, Linda then hid under her blanket and held her breath. The clicking then stopped. For a long moment, everything was silent. When she finally gathered the courage to peek again, the figure was gone, leaving her room empty and quiet as if nothing had happened. But for Linda, the fear stayed, as I'm sure it would with all of us. She refused to sleep alone for weeks afterwards, and her story became one more piece of the growing puzzle, one that linked the Mothman, strange lights, poltergeist activity, and mysterious figure that never stopped smiling. As the stories of the Smiling Man spread through the United States, something fairly interesting would actually begin to happen. Reports began appearing far beyond West Virginia and even far beyond the country. These encounters came from people who had never heard of each other, yet they described almost the same figure. Tall, strong, and always smiling. One of the earliest sets of reports came from Provincetown, Massachusetts. During the winter of 1966 and 1967, which is when the Chevy Impala had its best year, by the way, 1967, not 1966, although they were close. 1968, yeah. Anyways, old newspaper clippings from that time describe a strange prowler walking the quiet streets at night. Witnesses said that he was unusually tall and muscular, and that he watched from the shadows with a fixed grin on his face. Many details were never saved in digital files, but the stories still exist in the library archives, reminding people that the legend wasn't limited to one place. But one of the most unsettling encounters happened years after and across the ocean. In 1972, a woman named Mary McCrae lived with her husband Alan in a remote countryside of Scotland. Their home stood alone with no neighbors nearby and no busy roads. Nights were calm and quiet, and Mary followed the same routine every evening. She always made sure the curtains in her bedroom were fully closed before she went to sleep. One night, everything would change. Mary woke up to a strange clicking sound, the same quiet rhythm that many other witnesses had described. When she tried to sit up, she couldn't move. At that time, people didn't have a name for this kind of sleep paralysis, and to Mary, it felt like something was holding her down. Her eyes drifted towards the window, and she froze. The curtains were open, and in the opening, she saw a face. Small beady eyes stared in at her. Below them stretched a long, unnatural grin, almost too wide for a human mouth. As she watched, terrified and unable to move, Mary felt herself begin to lift from the bed. Slowly, she drifted towards the window, as if something was pulling her. Before she reached it, though, everything went black. When she awoke the next morning, she had a pounding headache. The curtains were still open, just as she had seen that night. Because she always closed them before bed, the moment didn't really fit neatly into the idea of sleep paralysis. Something had happened, something she never forgot. Mary remembered the event clearly for the rest of her life, all the way until she passed away in 2013. These international stories added a new layer to this mystery. The Smiling Man wasn't tied to one town or one country. He seemed to appear wherever he wanted, always at night, always silent, and always smiling. As researchers looked deeper into these sightings, they noticed something fairly unusual. The Smiling Man didn't just appear in quiet bedrooms or dark streets. His descriptions also showed up in stories about aliens and the strange visitors people call the Men in Black. Even though these topics sound very different, the details connected them in fairly obvious ways, I guess you could say. Many witnesses in alien cases talk about the clicking sound that came before something strange happened. This was the same clicking heard by people like Linda Lilly and Mary McCrae, and some abductees also described tall figures with stiff movements, smooth faces, and wide, unnatural smiles, details that matched the Smiling Man more than ordinary humans. Men in Black witnesses even reported meeting men who stood too still, blinked too little, or smiled in a way that felt very wrong, almost as if the smile was placed there instead of felt. And then there was the name that appeared again and again, Indrid Cold. Long after Woodrow Derenberger shared his story, other people claimed they saw someone who looked like the Smiling Man. Some said they met a tall, smiling figure during strange encounters, and others said the figure even called himself Indrid Cold, as if it was a name he used fairly often. Whether these people knew each other or not, the pattern kept showing up, creating a puzzle that has actually never really even been solved to this day. One of the most famous, examples of this came from Italy in 1979. A man named Pier Zanfretta became widely known for claiming he was taken several times by reptile-like aliens. His story was unusual on its own, but what made it even stranger was what he said had happened one night. Just before he claimed he was taken onto a craft, Pierre said he was approached by a tall, smiling man, one who told him his name was Indrid Cold. This detail matched the American cases from years earlier, even though Zanfretta lived across the world and spoke a different language. These connections didn't prove anything for certain, but they raised an important question. Were all these people describing the same being, or were they all experiencing something that simply looked alike? No one knows for sure, but the links between aliens, the Men in Black, and the Smiling Man continue to keep the mystery alive to this day. As these stories of the Smiling Man continue to spread, not everyone agreed on what truly happened. Investigators found that many details were confusing, repeated, or shaped by people who first wrote them down. Because of this, the mystery is it's kind of difficult to solve, and the answers depend really on how closely you're willing to look at all the evidence. One of the biggest reasons the Smiling Man is known today is because of writer John Keel. He was the first person to collect the early sightings, talk about the witnesses, and then write them in his books. But this also created a bit of a problem. Some experts believe Keel may have added small details to make the stories more interesting. Others think people who came later actually copied the descriptions from his books without meaning to. And because of this, it's hard to know which parts of the story are pure truth and which parts might be shaped by his influence. There are some possible explanations that may kind of help to explain this, though. One theory suggests that some of the encounters may not be original at all. Instead, people might be repeating details they already heard from the books, late-night radio stories, and even old interviews. And when someone already knows a creature is supposed to look like this as opposed to that, their mind can actually fill in gaps during these strange moments. A shadow becomes a face, a shape becomes a grin, and these copycat sightings can spread fast. Each new retelling adds confidence to the legend, even if nothing new actually happened. The danger is simple. The story grows, but the truth inversely does not. Another theory proposes that a few sightings, especially the ones inside bedrooms and happening at the edge of sleep, could just straight up come from sleep paralysis and At the end of this, I'm going to kind of go into that as well, because I have my own experience, but in this state, the mind wakes up, but the body cannot move. Often, people will see figures in the dark. Some report hearing clicking sounds, soft footsteps, or quiet breathing. And this could explain why some witnesses felt frozen with fear, but it cannot explain everything. Several Smiling Man sightings actually happened outdoors, in the winter streets, or in front yards, places where sleep paralysis probably isn't occurring unless you're like a narcoleptic. And in some cases, more than one person saw the same figure at the same time. That makes this explanation sort of incomplete. But some people suggest that the legend actually might spread the same way as a cold case does, quietly and from person to person. When a mysterious story reaches a town, people begin to link normal events to it. A tall stranger walking at night, a pale face glimpsed through a window, a reflection in the ice or glass. Soon, small moments feel connected to something larger, and over time, the story grows stronger even without clear evidence. This does not mean that the witnesses are lying, it just means the story has become, I guess, part of a way for people to explain fear. This theory explains how sightings appear in clusters, weeks or months, where people may kind of report a similar thing happening. Another theory suggests that the Smiling Man might not be an alien, a spirit, or even a visitor at all. Instead, he's just straight up a cryptid, a strange and rare creature that has not yet been discovered by science. This theory explains him as a natural but unknown species, something that lives on the edges of human civilization, appearing only at night or in cold months when fewer people are outside. Supporters of this idea say the grin might be a biological trait, like some animals always look like they're smiling even when they are calm. The tall shape, smooth face, and quiet movements could be adaptations for hunting, watching, or simply surviving in the dark. But this theory also has its limits. Cryptids do not usually communicate, appear indoors, or show interest in human thoughts, because cryptids are our biggest haters. Even with all these theories, though, many parts of the mystery they don't fit perfectly. When looking at reports carefully, several questions remain. Is the Smiling Man supposed to be a creature, an alien visitor, something that steps between worlds, a bald dude who's getting made fun of? We don't know. Are all witnesses seeing the same being, or could there be several of them? Almost every sighting takes place between winter and early spring, raising the question of why he appears in the cold, and why do only certain people seem to attract his attention. Some witnesses describe the Smiling Man standing motionless for long periods, appearing faster than someone could walk, or vanishing without footprints in the fresh snow. Is the Smiling Man a warning, a misunderstanding, or simply the shape of his face? None of these actually answer any questions or really fit every case. When all these stories are compared, one explanation, though, does seem the most reasonable. A mix of real sightings, misinterpretations, fear, and memories shaped by each other. The pattern continues, and the same tall figure with the same strange grin keeps appearing in different places and in different years. So whether the Smiling Man is a legend, a visitor, or something we cannot explain, his story remains part of our world. And if you ever find yourself alone on a cold night in a quiet street or a dark bedroom, you should remember one thing. He is said to appear when it is silent, and he is always smiling. So I always like to jump in. Obviously, I don't even know why I say that at this point, because anybody who actually watches this channel knows this, but let me just kind of talk about for a second sleep paralysis in general and the absolute fear that takes place. So there is a biological reason this happens. If you've ever had sleep paralysis, then you know what I'm talking about. It's essentially horrifying when it happens, but essentially so that you don't act out your dreams at night, your brainstem releases, I believe it's GABA, and that's kind of what prevents you from moving, and so you don't act out your dreams or injure yourself. Doesn't work for me, though, because I just smacked myself in the face with a watch not too long ago. I've also inadvertently punched people in my sleep. It happens, and I'm sure you've kicked people as well. But the point is that your brainstem is literally stopping you from moving. Now, that in and of itself isn't the scary, well, it's terrifying when you wake up because you can't move, but the reason everything is scarier is that actually your amygdala, which is responsible for like aggression and fear, that is more active when you're dreaming. So even though it's more active when you're dreaming, you can still have good dreams and everything like that, but when you wake up and you can't move, your amygdala is already highly activated, and that's why it becomes absolutely terrifying. Now, my personal experience is I've actually seen this thing before. I remember I was having a stint where I was having sleep paralysis dreams, like one after the other. It was really annoying. In fact, actually, when I first worked at American Eagle, we would do like the resets at night. And I remember I was driving home. It was around 6 a.m. I'd worked the whole night, And then I got home, I got in bed around 8 a.m. That's when I had my sleep paralysis dream. And at first, it was the door opening. And this kind of goes with the whole astral projection idea. I don't know if it happened, but all I know is that I thought I had walked into the kitchen and had seen like a box sitting there, and then I snapped back to my body and then tried to wake up or like actually sit up, and I couldn't. And it turns out that I did see a box in there. I don't know if I saw it the night before or what happened, but all I know is it wasn't there evidently when I'd gotten like that night. And anyway, so the whole point is there could be some bleed over from me seeing it. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is when I did the first time wake up and then go to the kitchen, I wasn't actually leaving my body. Like my body wasn't going with me, essentially. So it was very, very, very strange. I haven't been able to replicate that since, but it was with sleep paralysis. But anyways, so I had like 3 or 4 more of these sleep paralysis dreams throughout these couple of months until finally it ended when I went to a hotel because I believe my whole family was in town and there just wasn't enough room. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go grab a hotel. My brother was sleeping in the other bed. I was sleeping in one bed. And then I had a sleep paralysis dream, and I could always feel it because it's basically the hair on my neck would stand up, but I couldn't move. And I was like, oh crap, I'm having this again. Anyways, there was something in the room with me. It was sitting, actually, ironically, in the cuck chair. And it was like the corner was all blacked out at first. And then as I looked at it, it was smiling at me. It was like the way it was sitting, imagine like an extra 4.5 feet just from sitting in the cuck chair up. It was somebody who was taller and all that stuff, and it was smiling. Now, I don't remember specifically the facial features, but I remember they were smiling. It talked to me. I talked to it. Not a great experience. 0 out of 10. Don't talk to those things, by the way. And then that was the last sleep paralysis dream I've had. So you have activation of the amygdala. You have basically your brainstem preventing you from moving, and then your mind can actually, like, you can see the room around you, you can move, or at least your brain thinks you're moving. It's an entire process. So when those events happen, it scares the holy hell out of you because, like, you're talking, I mean, my heart rate, I could feel my heart as I was like stuck. And I gotta tell you, it was like I was running a marathon or something because it was just beating out of my chest the whole time because you're basically stuck and your body is panicking and it doesn't know why it's stuck. It's a whole process. So did these people see what they say they saw? The problem with a smiling person when you have sleep paralysis is it's incredibly common to see. People see aliens, they see monsters on their chest, and they see people smiling. I see people smiling. It's horrible. Like, and there's actually, I didn't realize it was like this prevalent of a thing, but like any, like, the last girlfriend I had, my ex-wife, good Lord, this is sounding terrible, but yes, I have lived a life. But the point is that anybody that I've talked to, like, it usually comes down to like women that I've talked to, they will have an issue with people smiling. Like, it's like they know something that you don't know. In fact, one of the creepiest stories I've seen on Reddit that I just think about sometimes was this guy was basically saying with his wife he would play a game where they would look at each other around corners and smile at each other and be creepy. He's like, yeah, so it used to be a game, and he's like, but now she does it all the time. Like, he's like, anytime like there's even a crack in the door, or like I'm sitting there drinking coffee and I like look down past the island, she'll be like right there smiling at me from around the corner, like halfway. He's like, and right now I've locked her out of the bathroom because I've asked her to stop multiple times and she keeps doing it. And I guarantee you, if I look under the door, she's looking at, like, that type of stuff. Something about smiling in general, especially if it's not intentional, like it's not for real, then it's deeply unsettling to humans. And then you've got the concept of the uncanny valley where something looks almost human but isn't human, and it creates a lot of issues. So could these people have been seeing these, I guess, smiling men or man or whatever? It's entirely possible because, again, I always like to maintain when we set off the nukes way back in the day, all of a sudden we started having all of these visitors and UFOs and Roswell and all this stuff. To me, it kind of seems like once you set off a nuke, if there's anything out there like aliens and whatnot, you probably you move up, right? Because you're no longer just lighting fires or building a steam engine. You literally severed an atom, which means fundamentally you understand the laws of physics, which separates you from other species. And then if there are beneficial aliens out there who are like, hey, don't mess with that, essentially the human race is like a toddler at this point, and we've been given a hand grenade. You might want to take the hand grenade, like, just, or at least let them know about the hand grenade. Like, yeah. So I don't know, but either way, creepy as all get out. especially with my own experience with the smiling man. You know, at the end of the day, hey, I'm still here making videos, so I survived it. So what is he really doing? If he is real, well, it seems like he's kind of just observing, in which case, okay. But I think that's going to do it for me. I hope everybody enjoyed. If you did enjoy it, then please leave a like as it gets the video out there. And subscribing is a great way to stay up to date on when I post. I'll drop my Twitter, Discord, Instagram, and Roanoke gaming links, as well as Patreon in the description. But speaking of patrons, I'd like to thank mine real quick. At the literal Wendigo tier, we have Monkey Man, Scrungle, Invictus Echo, and the homeless guy on the street. Thank you guys for your awesome support. At the Eyewitness to the Event tier, we have Beaver Laga, Eddie the Yeti, Dragon Master Knight, and Hope Blighton. Thank you guys as well. At the first-hand accounts tier, we have the Soggy Anglerfish and Sidity. And then at the second-hand accounts here, we have Troy and Fred Rush, as well as Pouches. And to the rest of my patrons, I do appreciate y'all's support as well. It goes a long way towards helping out, so thank you. But all right, that's going to do it for me. Cover your face if you see the smiling man, and I will see y'all in the next one.